You've probably been told that letting go is the answer, that freedom comes from detachment. But what if the very act of trying to let go is keeping you stuck? This conversation is for anyone who's tried to loosen their grip on a relationship, a goal, a version of themselves, and still felt reactive, anxious, or uncertain underneath. It's not that you're doing it wrong, it's that most approaches to letting go are still built on fear. Today, we'll shift the focus away from release and toward training stability. Let's look at what actually happens in your system when you're attached to something and how to build a state that doesn't rely on pushing it away. When people say let go, what they often mean is detach before it hurts. It's a survival move. The nervous system perceives risk of loss, rejection, disappointment, and reacts by trying to remove the object of attachment. It might sound noble, but what's really being trained here? Avoidance, withdrawal, fear masked as control. I've seen this pattern in countless clients. Someone's dating, things feel good, and instead of relaxing into it, they pull back. They tell themselves, I'm just not attached. But underneath is a spike of fear. What if it goes away? The system isn't training peace, it's training anticipation of loss. Letting go, when it's reactive, just reinforces the very state you're trying to move beyond. Attachment isn't a flaw. It's a signal. It shows you what emotional state is currently active in your nervous system. If you're clinging to something, there's probably a deeper pattern running. Fear of not having enough, fear of being alone, fear of losing control. You don't need to fix the attachment. You need to ask, what state is this reinforcing? And is that the state you want to live from? Someone I worked with had built a successful career, but every time a project ended, they spiraled. Not because they weren't capable, but because their system was trained to tie worth to constant achievement. They weren't attached to the job itself. They were attached to the identity it gave them. When you notice strong attachment, you're being given a window into your training. Use it. Here's something most people miss. Your system doesn't get trained by what you know. It gets trained by what you feel repeatedly under intensity. So if you're in a heightened emotional state, anxious, jealous, possessive, and you react by pulling away, your system locks that pattern in even more deeply. You might convince yourself you're moving on, but you're actually reinforcing a state that says, I'm not safe unless I distance myself. The next time you're in a similar situation, the same nervous system cue will trigger, and the cycle repeats. This is why insight isn't enough. Training begins when you choose a different emotional state while the old one is still active and redirect consistently. People think they want to feel free or at peace or unattached, but those aren't the drivers. They're the byproducts. What you really want is certainty, the internal steadiness to show up fully, regardless of what happens next. Certainty doesn't mean you never feel sad or disappointed or thrown off. It means those states don't dictate your actions. You might love deeply and still feel calm. You might want something intensely and still stay grounded. That's what we're training for. I've seen people step into high-stakes situations, business deals, family decisions, major life shifts, and stay clear, not because they detached, but because they were anchored in a trained state of certainty. And that didn't come from letting go. It came from choosing who they wanted to be again and again. If this is landing, hit subscribe. I drop videos each week to help you train your inner world with structure and clarity. When the system flares, when jealousy hits or fear of loss creeps in, what do most people do? They either react from the emotion or try to suppress it. But neither changes the pattern. Here's what works. Pause. Notice the emotional state being activated, then deliberately redirect. That might mean shifting perception, seeing the situation not as a threat, but as a chance to stabilize. It might mean bringing in a trained emotional state like trust or certainty on purpose, even if it doesn't feel natural in the moment. This isn't bypassing, it's training. You're rewiring the nervous system to respond differently under pressure. And every time you redirect, you reinforce the state you want to live from. This is the paradox. When your system is stable, when you're trained into calm, grounded, steady presence, you don't need to let go. There's nothing to grip in the first place. You're not holding on out of fear or trying to push something away. You're engaged, present, and available without being run by emotional volatility. So, ironically, the freedom most people seek through detachment only comes once they've trained the inner state that makes detachment irrelevant. Letting go isn't the goal. Emotional stability is. If you're hearing this and thinking, this sounds like me, you're not broken, you've just been training a pattern that no longer serves, and that can change. So let's bring this home. Every emotional state you feel consistently, especially under stress, is being trained. Not because you chose it consciously, but because the system doesn't distinguish between what's helpful and what's habitual. So ask yourself, what emotional state are you practicing over and over without even realizing it? Is it fear, jealousy, distrust, or is it stability, trust, certainty? Because what you practice becomes how you show up. Not just in one moment, but in relationships, in goals, and how you experience life as a whole. The shift doesn't come from fixing anything. It comes from training. If you're ready to stop managing symptoms and start training a steady, resilient inner state, I've built a system for that. It integrates perception, emotion, and nervous system, so you don't just understand your patterns, you actually shift them. The link's below. I also share practices weekly on Instagram at Mike Wang Coaching. And if you want more depth, you can join the newsletter below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.